Good morning, everyone. This is Mike Klein, and today is August 19th, and this is the monthly meeting of the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee. We have Glenn Morey and Koreman with us this morning from the committee, and we expect Dan Klein and Dave McKenna is excused. Are there any changes to the agenda this morning? Not hearing any, let's go to public comment. I believe we have some this morning. I think Jim Scally is here. Jim, would you like to speak to us for 3 minutes?
I'm going to defer to Dan Lamb. He has the points that the town is interested in making first.
Glad to do that. Dan Lamb. I should mention both Jim and Dan are town board members, town of Dryden.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thanks for the chance to speak with you. We just noticed on the agenda that there would be a discussion about the Bridge New York program, a continuation, and I think that's great. As you know, we're really involved in that program, and I like the memo that Jeff Smith had drafted. I think some of the terms in there are very agreeable. I want to encourage thoughtful consideration of the points that he raised with regards to the county picking up the local share of the Bridge New York program to encourage municipalities to seek out this federal grant money that, of course, runs through the state. I think it's a very beneficial program. It's been good to the town of Dryden for 2 bridges. And we're getting towards the, how should I say, the decision point on the Freeze Road Bridge. We've got an exciting opportunity before us. And I think what Jeff has presented would be good for the town in terms of what we'd like to do with the Freeze Road Bridge. And so I just want to encourage that. I think having the county pick up to 20% of the local cost if necessary would be great. But to consider certain measures on anything over 20%. Would be fairly reasonable as far as I can see. And so those are the points I wanted to raise. If anyone wanted to know more about the Freeze Bridge project, I'd be happy to explain it. And maybe if I have 30 seconds left, I'll just give you a quick.
Go ahead. If you need couple of minutes more, that's fine.
Okay, well, thank you.
Talk about what's happening with the what would happen with the removal of the old bridge?
Yeah, so what we're looking to do, and we're getting positive feedback from New York State Department of Transportation, is the old bridge carefully removed and to have the trusses taken to the village of Groton and put on display as a tribute to the historical significance of this truss pony style bridge. It's a really unique object that I think we're all in admiration of. So we think, and then we would replace what's there with a single lane truss style bridge as well, but it'd be a new bridge. But it would, pay homage to the old bridge by having trusses, but they would be steel, stainless steel, or steel bridges, trusses. So it would have a historic look to it. There would be a pedestrian walkway as a component, and it would have traffic signaling. We believe, and we're fairly certain that this putting the old facade on the new bridge will come in well under budget, and we don't anticipate this new design to go beyond the Bridge New York grant. So I don't think that will impose any burden on the county in terms of what we're talking about in terms of local share. However, to move the bridge to Groton, we estimate, and we've had this quoted by a contractor, that costs about $50,000 to carefully remove the bridge and take it to Groton. That will not be covered by the Bridge New York grant. So we would need the county to take that on as part of the cost of doing this project. But if you look at it in terms of a proportion within the bridge, New York grant, it still would probably keep you well under 20% and probably close to 5% of the overall cost of the project, if that's making sense. What we've learned is to move the bridge to Groton, we would have to consider the bridge demolished. It would be taken off the historic register or eligible anymore, but you would still be paying historic, credit to the bridge and maintaining historic value. It just wouldn't be on the historic or wouldn't be eligible anymore. So that moving the bridge to Groton would not be considered something that the federal government or the state administration of this program would cover. Any other, are there any questions about this before I could keep going on about it.
Okay, before I go to that, I want to go back to Jim and ask if he has comments.
Well, yes, I would like to endorse the fact that this is I believe, is one of only 2 bridges of this particular engineering style that's anywhere in the country. And Groton Iron Works was the original designer back in the 1876. Well, this bridge was built around 1870 something. And so in that case, it has some uniqueness that would be interested to add to the display and historical components that the village of Groton is proposing to put together as a historic reference for what manufacturing was like in that time period. I don't have the specific details of what they are planning exactly, but I think the other thing is that as this bridge was looked at by the local community in the Varna area, there was strong support and interest in maintaining it as a historic bridge. The result of that not being possible, so therefore it was viewed, the resulting working with DOT and the feds and so forth, the town worked with the community in collaboration and came up with a design that meets all the general criteria of the county and the state for longevity and support and that sort of thing. So I think that having this historical component transferred to the village of Groton, so it's within the local area, is a significant point that should be considered as the county works on some of these ideas. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Does the committee want to ask either Dan Lamb or Jim Scally any questions on this? Not seeing any. Thank you both for speaking to us this morning.
Martha does have her hand up.
Thank you.
Okay, Martha, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I would support what Dan and Jim have said. Of course, I think all parties involved have worked years really on this very creative solution that solves, solves many different problems in an unusual way. And as Dan said, looks like it's going to come in around budget or even under. I think the county's interests are a couple. One is to make sure that there's a safe bridge, and that's certainly what DOT, the state DOT, and the Federal Highway Administration are assuring. They wouldn't sign off on something that's not going to be safe. Highway superintendent is fully satisfied. His trucks and emergency vehicles will be able to go over the bridge. The neighbors and the community are well satisfied and very accommodating and pleased with the compromise. And Groton gets to have a new historical display, something that's unique in, as Dan said, in the country, Jim said in the country. The incoming legislator for the Groton district, as Glenn knows really well, is Lee Shurtleff, who has been working on, I guess, is the village or the town historian, and has been working. Village
historian.
So he's been working on this project diligently as well. So I think this really checks a lot of boxes. And from the point of view of overall saving the county money by participating in the Bridge New York program, compared to if the town had not taken all this initiative, spent all this time, put up the initial funding, the county, if the town hadn't done all of that, the county would be spending far more for this bridge and not gotten as creative a solution. If I could just ask Jeff Smith to sort of remind us, this would have been a county only project, county plus local funding, right? Is that right, Jeff? I think like 80% county, 20% local. Is that what it would be without the Bridge New York program?
Yeah, if we'd have progressed the project in-house, it would have been like Dodge Road was, some other bridges, Red Mill, Malloryville project bridges, where the town of Dryden paid 20% of the final cost of both bridges, correct?
And the town and the county pays 80%. Right? So in this case, even if the share, as your memo says, goes up to 20% over the original grant, that's saving millions of dollars for the county. So I would urge the committee to support this kind of flexible, collaborative approach that really saves all of our taxpayers' money. If instead you put in a provision that says the county has to approve the design upfront before, or approve, we'll only reimburse. If you say the county will only reimburse if it approves the design, then towns won't ever take that risk because they're having to do all the work and put up the money in advance for a project that they would not be doing otherwise. So I think that Jeff's memo looks good, as Dan said, and I hope that the committee will support that. Thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to y'all.
Thank you, Martha. We got to move off of this and to some other things, but go ahead, Dan, if you got another.
Quickly, just to reiterate that, sometimes you don't know where the journey is going to end when you start one of these projects. And so there has to be a certain amount of flexibility to emphasize what Martha just said. We didn't know where we would wind up when we started this project, but we like where we are now. Groton, we could not have predicted that Groton have its interest when we applied for this funding. But given the situation, they stepped up and Lee was great in coming up with a plan. So that's the sort of flexibility that, can have that is needed in order for these creative solutions that really will have a ripple effect, really beneficial. So we would just ask that you consider these sorts of things as betterments, that moving this bridge to Groton and that the expense that we're going to incur is part of the betterment aspect of this work, and that it be considered something that the county would support financially.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment this morning? Under my report, I wanted to bring to the attention of the committee a resolution that I've been working with and Lisa Holmes and administration has been drafting, I should say, having to do with the historic painting in the lobby of the Governor Tompkins building where we are here. That painting was done in the early 1950s, I believe, by the county's first historian, Glenn Norris. And it's been hanging down in this building. It used to hang in the back of the chambers in the old, when we had chambers in the main court house, but it was starting to deteriorate. And some of us thought it probably needed to be looked at by professionals. And I originally, several months ago, contacted Jason Molino and also Carol Kamen. And Jason asked Carol and I to look into this and find out what it would take to restore it, how much it would cost. And I'm going to ask Carol if she might comment on the historic importance of protecting this painting. Morning, Carol. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me, especially remotely. I appreciate that. I think there are a couple of things about the painting that are worth noting. One is that it was the creation of the county historian, or the first county historian, which sort of shows the breadth of what a county historian can actually do. Excuse me. I believe that county historians were thought to simply collect documents and make sure they were safe. But in this case, Glenn Norris created something. And this is his work, and he created a number of other paintings, but this is in the county's hands. And so it should be preserved, not only because he did it, but because most counties don't have anything of this nature created by someone in the county. They have big commercial maps, but nothing like this. The other thing is that this is a painting that doesn't make me cringe. It doesn't have the diversity I would put in today. It doesn't reflect the common people, but there's nothing cringeworthy in it. And so we will not have people throwing red paint on it, and we will not have to have a discussion of removing it. It is a interesting artifact of Glenn Norris's tenure as county historian. And although the cost is a bit higher than what Mike and I believed at first, I think it's worth preserving.
Thank you, Carol. I want to mention that Morel Lamaro and Alan Lockett have been a great help here. We originally asked whether facilities would have some funding for this. Apparently they don't, but they were kind enough to transport the painting up to Skaneateles, to the Westlake conservators up there, who have given us this estimate for this specialized work that would be needed for this painting. Would give Alan a chance to speak if he needs to. Alan, is there anything you want to say about it? Then I want to give Lisa a chance to speak.
Well, I just echo Carol's sentiments. I think it's a great piece of artwork, and just happy to help where we can.
Thank you. Lisa, let me get Lisa an opportunity to speak if she would like to.
I agree with all that's been said, and this has been a part of the Daniel D. Tompkins building, and I guess should be considered as a maintenance cost for this this artifact that, you know, in order to preserve it.
Okay. Can I get someone to put the resolution on the table? Dan, are you moving it? Is there a second? Seconded by Glenn. Now, go ahead, Ann.
Thank you. So I believe it is important to restore this painting. And I just wanted to let Carol know that we don't expect her to do a painting herself, but if she needed supplies, if she wanted to try, she might be able to come back to this committee and ask for painting supplies, but it's not required. But in all seriousness, so this is, it's a good chance, I mean, I know that's $3,000, $3,388, but still, to preserve history, it's expensive to do that. And, relative to other costs that the county's incurred, I think it's important we do this, and I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Ed.
I'm going to Glenn, then Dan.
Do we have a location after the restoration? We're going to hang it?
I see Kathy mentioning, what are you thinking, Kathy?
Well, it had been hung downstairs in the main lobby area where you come in, so I assume it would be hung back up there. There's really no space in here for it.
Towards the park? Or?
Yes.
Right at the bottom of the stairs.
Come in the front door.
Dan?
I support this resolution, and I'm wondering if we would consider as the source of the funding for it, the tourism, the hotel tax fund. It does meet some of the criteria to fall into that. I believe there's already a tie-in between the county historian's office and tourism funding. And also tourism funding is specifically can be used for public buildings, and certainly the lobby of this building is public space. So that was just a thought. I would prefer to see it from that, but I won't vote against it if we keep the funding as is proposed.
Yes, I turn to Lisa for any comment on that suggestion.
It's an interesting thought, Dan. I didn't think of it myself. My understanding is that that budget and those allocations had already been is already decided. So I didn't really look into that further. I could if it's the will of the committee, but I guess my assumption is that those funds are already committed for the present year, and the quote that we have is for the next 60 days. So I was just thinking of timeline.
Interesting thought, Dan. Okay, anything else? Dan?
I'm just thinking with the tourism money being allocated already and with tourism funds taking a big hit this year, I know they're starting to recover. I prefer it to be like it is, but I think in the future, I think we should consider, something like this when tourism is on a better footing financially. So I appreciate Dan's suggestion of that.
Anything else? Ready to vote? Those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you, Carol, for helping. Thank you, Lisa, for helping us get the resolution here. And and Alan will be giving Westlake the go-ahead, and hopefully through our purchasing department. Isn't that the proper way to go at this point, Lisa? And then once they get it done, maybe we'll have to ask your folks again to bring it back to us.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're up to Lisa for her county administrator's report.
Thank you, Mike. And I'll be brief this morning. I think there's always a lot going on in this office, but what's of particular relevance to this committee is we are working with staff on the 2022 budget, and in particular the capital plan, which we had for the most part in a pretty finalized state, but given that the legislature elected to devote about 14.85 million of the ARPA funding toward cash for capital, we've been plugging those numbers into the 2020 capital plan and getting that finalized, choosing projects that that we can fulfill given the timeline for ARPA funding, projects that do not have a federal share per the ARPA guidelines. And I think that we're getting close to having that finalized as a component of the overall budget, and we'll hope to be, well, in a few short weeks, we'll be sharing the capital plan as well as the entire budget with you and with the full legislature. So that's in part what we're doing here, and happy to take any questions on that.
Are there questions for Lisa this morning? Don't see any, but thank you for that report, Lisa.
Thank you, Mike.
Should mention that both Dan Klein and now Dave McKenna have joined us this morning, so we've got a full committee now. Let's go to our highway department. Jeff Smith is here.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
We're busy. A lot of washouts and stuff, a lot of debris plugging culverts and causing damage. But we're handling it. Nothing major right now to report, but that's why I've been on the phone and going off and on video this morning. So we have a resolution for the committee to consider to approve funding for the 6 culvert projects, to forward an agreement. The funding being used in this place, which I believe to some degree everyone is aware, is the ARP funding. The amount of the total income of the project coming from the state for the culverts is $3,060,500. The amount required to progress all 6 culverts forward at this time is $1,724,000. This isn't, this is the way the state is requiring that we do this. I'm not necessarily against it, but I want to make sure it's clear that all of these numbers at this time are estimates provided by the consultant. This consultant happens to be Bergman, but it's hired through DOT. DOT is progressing these culvert projects as one project, and there may be, after this is what it takes at this point to progress the project forward, and it may be less and it may be more. I just want to emphasize that at this time it's an estimate. I commonly say everything's an estimate until we get the bid, and then we know it's going to cost, and then at the bid we decide if we want to progress forward, and hopefully we can locate and find the funding to progress the project forward. That said, if there's any questions, I can certainly try and answer.
Let's get it on the table. Someone want to move it? Dave has moved it, seconded by Ann. Discussion about the culvert projects. I guess we're ready to vote. All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Jeff, has the state opened the second round for the culvert project yet?
It's not exactly the second round. There was 5 years. They've been bundled. But to answer the question, what I think you mean is that the culvert projects, along with all the bridge projects, were due back in May, I think. End of April, May so everything's been submitted for the final round that's funded at this time for Bridge New York. Bridge New York culvert.
They haven't announced them yet.
No, we will not hear. We're not expected to hear till later this year, probably early next year into spring. I would think, yeah. But they have told us that we should hear something later this year.
Okay, Ann?
Thanks. Jeff, I was just wondering, this have to be right now. I know we have another item on the agenda for highway, but just before you left us, you talked about some damage and washouts. So just wondering if we can get a summary of what you've been hearing is going on.
This morning I've received some pictures from the Ludlowville area up through Salmon Creek Road. That's a town road, but we do have a bridge on it. Not to report any damage, but the river that flows under the bridge, it's, if you remember, Red Bridge, and I wish I could easily send you a picture, is right to the bottom of the bridge. And it's somewhat kind of gasping when you see it, because it's usually very high and dry, a lot of freeboard. The normal flow of the river is 8 to 10 feet. It's a very long bridge. So the flow is right up to the bottom of the bridge. That was just what I saw this morning. And then there's another on Comfort Road, just off of 96 in Danby. One of our culverts was plugged and it flowed down, and we have some damage on the shoulder. We have some things going on in Newfield on it's off of Newfield Main Street. We're not quite to Newfield Depot. There's a little section of County Road. It's basically Newfield Depot kind of extension. I don't know the exact name for it. It's all the same road number, where the storm drain got plugged. Most of it has to do with debris, filling, debris coming down a channel and filling or plugging, and then the water can't get through that and ends up backing up and then flowing over. I haven't heard anything up in the Ulysses area. Not saying there isn't something up there, but those are the issues that I heard this morning. It's widespread. It's quite around. We've had a few trees. Some fire departments were out cutting some trees off the roadsides for us last night. We're cleaning them up. Nothing, major at this point.
Jeff, you got any report on Schaefer Road?
Schaefer Road is holding, David. Glad to report the issue area. The report I got was it did not go over the road, and the work that we did, although the ditches were very full on coming down Benjamin Hill and then making the corner onto Schaefer, but what we had done recently is holding very well.
Great, thank you.
Glad to report. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for that update. We always worry when we have apparently Storm Fred coming through, and we've got possibly another 2 coming afterwards. So I noticed Fall Creek was up quite a bit when I drove over it this morning.
Yeah.
We have a capital payment summary report for the Highway Department on the agenda. Are there any questions about that? It's payment for Barton and LaJudas Associates for the Etna Lane Bridge replacement design services. That's just for information. Okay, now I'd like to turn to continuing our discussion about the Bridge New York reimbursement for towns and or villages. And we've heard some comments about it this morning, of course, and we've had some quite a while to review Jeff's memorandum proposing some kind of a resolution that we should have. I spent some time on it and sent you out yesterday a memo with some comments I had, which I thought we might want to consider adding to his memo. But I think you all have copies of them in front of you. I don't know whether everyone has seen these or not. Some said, are we going to say it's got to be a 2-lane bridge or a 1-lane bridge or not a 1-lane bridge? In the comment I made, number 1, I didn't say that. I said it needs to be what we would normally build if the county were building it by itself. I also thought, and this is not in agreement with what Jeff had suggested, but I do think we ought to be giving examples of some of the betterments we would expect the involved municipality to stand the cost And I also thought, and this comes with some of the early discussion we had, that there ought to be a final approval of whatever agreement by the Facilities Committee and by the full legislature before it goes ahead. So those are the three items that I put in my memo, and that again, it's just my possible proposals. I'm glad to hear comments about them if you folks have any of them. Dan Klein.
Thank you. So first of all, I feel a little behind. Is this on the agenda? Did I miss something?
Yes, it is on the agenda. The capital, 6C, discussion continues the Bridge New York reimbursement.
Discussion, but we're not scheduled to vote today. We might.
No,
Okay.
there's no proposed resolution to vote on.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Jeff's memo recommended that we go by a resolution, but that has not been put together yet. Still in discussion stage. Is that right, Jeff?
Thank you for that. So that was my first one. Mike, I just heard your explanation, but I just saw this morning, so it's not fully absorbed, but you're suggesting that basically the county would have to agree at some level to the project before it was submitted to New York State? Is that kind of where you're going?
The way I would envision it happening is that this negotiation would be going on between our highway department and the municipality. They would develop an MOU or other agreement and then bring it to their town or village board, and then Jeff would bring it to this committee and onto the full legislature for approval of that negotiated agreement.
And all that would happen before the municipality submitted the application to New York? Is that what your intention is?
I'm not sure whether it would have to be before or it could be afterwards. You know, there might not be a reason to spend all that time negotiating a contract if the money wasn't already approved by the state. Jeff may want to comment on that.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, that was my exact thought. That there could be quite a bit of effort put into that, and then not really receive the funding on the other end. There is time, and we have, just to go on a little bit, we did with the case of Cemetery Road and the town of Ulysses enter an agreement with them for cost share prior to them accepting the grant. There is some time in there to do that. So.
Okay, so I mean, I agree that the process you just described with like committee, full legislature, town board before the application is probably too cumbersome. But I guess I'm just trying to put something in the policy that prevents what just happened, which in my view, what just happened in Dryden was the county made it clear at whatever level that we wanted a 2-lane bridge. And then later on, you know, suddenly a 1-lane bridge, we're expected to approve that. So that's all I'm looking for, is a way that early on in the process, the county's intentions, desires, wishes are clearly recognized, and that if the town wishes to go in a different direction than that, then they're on their own. That's what I'm looking for. It's an early spot in the process where the county makes it clear what their intention is.
Would you like to add some or craft some language, and maybe when we get this draft resolution, we could put it in and for further discussion at that point? Yeah.
Yes, I can do that.
Can you get the mic?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I do that. Okay.
She was just asking to speak into your mic.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
That mic, not you, Mike. Yes, I'd be happy to do that. I can't do it right now. I can't do it.
No, that's all right. We've got time.
Okay.
And
a couple of things. One is, so with Jeff's recommendation, it doesn't say about that it needs to come to the county. It just said, let's see, if it's determined by county highway representatives that the overage of cost is found to be specific aspects of bridge replacement items, then the county will consider the overage valid and reimburse the sponsor for the total share. In the event that the cost is found to include betterments, which is different, then the not associated with a specific bridge items, then the overage cost will fall to the sponsor municipality. So with just to clarify, so if the county were to do some of these bridges, we'd be paying about 20%. And then with the municipalities taking the lion's share of the design and the engineering, supporting all that, then the county's only paying 5%, correct? Jeff, I guess that's questions for you.
Yeah, I'll try to answer that. I'm a little confused, but I'll just say this way. The intention here with my recommendation is that we enter into an agreement with the municipality that has awarded the project. The local share up front of the grant, the local share is 5% of the total cost of the project. There's the total cost of the grant, value, amount of the grant, and 5%. That's the total project cost. Should the total project cost exceed that up to 20%, the county would pay of the total project cost. I don't want to shut the door on other possibilities that could raise that above that 20%. George Road is a perfect example, but I don't want to shut the door on that, in that if it's a straightforward bridge and they just run into a rock at the wrong elevation and have to add more concrete, as you know, I think all of you, we've done enough bridges now that we see this variation of costs, and they become a change on contract. And these are, you've already started the bridge, you've awarded it, they're going to move forward. So it gets to the end and there could be an overage in the basic design of the bridge. I think that we should consider paying that as well. If it's found that the town, and I support this, so I'm saying it this way, if the town decides to design a bridge and realize that, oh, well, we do want to do a slight betterment here, it makes sense. It's good for the county. It's good for the taxpayers, the community, to maybe add a little bit of sidewalk or add something. The county will be good for up to 20% over the total cost of the project. But if I'll say it this way, trying to be a little funny, if the town gets a little, or the village or the municipality gets a little greedy and they want to say pave a mile of road, the county is then going to look at that as that's a village street, that's a town road. We're not going to pay that. It's not a blank check, and that's really not with the bridge project. It's outside the scope of the original bridge project. We're happy to go to the 20%. If it's something that happens during construction, we'll consider it. If it's a bridge issue, which is very well known, it'll be very well documented, easy to account for. And then, that can be brought to the ledge and we can hopefully find the money. There's no guarantee above the 20%, but I don't want to shut the door hard on it. But if the municipality if the municipality decides to put in a lighting district and add a bunch of sidewalk and enlarge the project limits and do a bunch of extra paving, that's not necessarily going to be founded by county cost as that. I think that makes sense. That if that answers your question, and if not, please let me know.
Yes, it does. So, another example, which we've had already, like connecting it to a local trail, to do some betterment that would help the community in that way too. So I'm just seeing that your proposed, Jeff, your proposed recommendation, or your recommendation here doesn't say that we need to have it come to us to review. Whereas Mike's does, so I'm just trying to figure out, you know, where to go here. So I guess that's kind of up to us, but I'm just wondering, well, I guess I'll just leave it there, just, I guess, a comment, because I know that would, you know, we might have some municipalities, I guess, have issues with that if they had to bring it here, and it would prolong it. It sounds like if they were going to bring it here to F&I's legislature for approval, it'd probably have to be before applying for the grant, as was previously said. So I'm kind of like Dan, I'm kind of just trying to digest some of this. One question now that is coming to mind, I guess, would be for Jeff. What is, or anybody else knows, what is the time frame between being the municipality being awarded the grant and then having to accept the grant?
I'm going to say you have a good couple of months. None of this program moves quickly. You want to be in communication with DOT. You know, there's representatives that'll reach out back and forth. I think there's probably a couple of months, easy to say, to formulate the agreement. I don't know that it's really set, but there is a short timeline generally with these projects. They want to do them in 2 years. Those were extended to now. I think it's design and construction is more like a 3-year plan. And so it's that there, and as we've seen, there's other issues that come up that can extend project as well. So, you know, I'm going to kind of just say a couple of months. You know, there really isn't an established time frame.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have for right now.
Other comments from committee members? Sorry about my microphone. Any other comments from committee members? I see a couple of hands on the screen. Martha.
Yeah, thanks very much for letting me participate. And I just want to mention, Dave, if you speak again, it was really hard to hear what you said. So if you lean forward more in the future. I would like to make a couple comments about the policy, but also about this specific project that has elicited all this conversation. The town of Dryden entered into this whole endeavor assuming the previous understanding that wasn't questioned about the county picking up the local share. As Dan said, you start in one place and you never know exactly where it's going to end up. This was a very special project because it's a historic bridge. There were federal requirements, state requirements with the SHPO office, Historical Preservation Office, that the town was required to go through. Public comment, there were public interveners, there were many steps that aren't involved in most of our other bridges. If the town had not followed all of those requirements, it would never have gotten, the grant would have been pulled. It wasn't discretionary. The town had to go through a rigorous public comment process, had to get SHPO approval, and Dan can list all the many other steps as well. And that's one reason it's taken so long. So that's why when the original project was, the original application was for, I think the wording was either redesign or rehabilitation or reconstruction of this bridge, left open. I know Jeff wanted a 2-lane bridge, but that was before all of these other required steps had proceeded. So I think it would really be a breach of trust to now go back in some way and now require that, well, gee, we didn't get our way, we're not going to pay the local share, or we're going to nickel and dime the town, et cetera, that would really be a breach of trust and would make other municipalities, I think, and certainly the town of Dryden, hesitant, reluctant to enter into this kind of a partnership where they have to do the work and put up the money up front. So I just want to say this is a particular project, a unique project. I don't know how many other potential Bridge New York projects even have this kind of historic component, so this may never come up again. So that's about what might happen with Freeze Road. It would really be a shame in my mind to change the rules in the middle of the game. As far as in the future, what I hear from Jeff is that assuming that basically anything up to 20% over the original grant budget would be covered by the town, that you're comfortable with that, that Jeff, you think that that's fair, and that you would be flexible beyond the 20% with negotiation from the town, trying to understand what that overage is. But up to 20%, that's part of the agreement. And I understand. So I guess I'd really want to make sure we're separating these issues. There's the policy going forward, but then there's also the specific commitment to the town for a project that's been in the works for 3 or 4 or 5 years. So I just wanted to separate those issues. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Martha. Dan, I will take your comment, but please, you've spoken before, please be brief.
Okay. Yeah, I would just caution against the county trying to set criteria up front for municipalities to follow as they apply for grants and through this program. New York State has a very thick bridge manual that must be followed to create these bridges. We do a lot of negotiation with the Department of Transportation in the design and engineering of these structures. Having another entity to clear our projects with is, I think, a real bureaucratic overkill in this case. And I don't think it would, I think it would discourage creativity at the municipal level. It would disempower municipalities from designing projects that best fit the community. I mean, we are the ones that are closest to our constituents and in the best position to negotiate with DOT on bridge design. And I would particularly discourage any attempts to set specific design criteria or betterments as was suggested in your analysis, Mike Lane. I really think what Jeff has designed is a good solution to this going forward in terms of setting the terms for municipalities to design these projects and their betterments and have a certain amount of creativity within the overall grant amount, and also, you know, setting a limit on how much overage you could incur at a municipal level. So I think what Jeff has suggested, it would be a very good policy going forward.
Thank you. I'm going to suggest at this point that we ask Highway Department to go ahead and start drafting a resolution. There may be alternative whereas are resolved in that resolution that when it comes back here, we can decide on. But I think that's the way to move forward at this point. Jeff, would that be acceptable to you?
Yes, Mike, that's fine. Be happy to do it.
And Dan's going to submit something, and if anybody else has anything else, let's get it to Jeff. Lisa, is that okay with you?
Fine with me, thank you.
All right.
Can I just ask a clarification? So, so Dan, you're going to submit proposed language to Jeff to add to it?
Yes, and I'll submit it to Jeff and to the committee, so it doesn't, I don't want to put words in Jeff's mouth, but I'll provide language that everyone can look at. Yeah.
Okay, and anybody can do that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's what we basically said actually 2 months ago that we could do it, so. But if you got something you would like to propose, Dan, we'd like to hear from you. All right, Jeff, anything else from Highway this morning?
Nothing from highway. There goes the mute button. Nothing from highway. Just try and stay dry, everyone.
Okay, any more questions for Jeff? Thanks for being with us this morning, Jeff.
Yep, thank you.
Now we're going to move to airport, and is Roxanne here?
Morning, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. I was looking for your name, but your picture's there, even better. Welcome.
Thank you. So we, first a quick update on the UAI grant that we have been working on. Mike is on vacation this week. Jean is on vacation this week. So I don't have much to report. I know they're putting together a draft.
Roxanne, would you just say what the acronym is? Upstate.
Sure. Upstate Airport Initiative Grant. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Yep, they're working on that. They're putting that together, and they will send out information getting back together next week to finalize all the ideas with Tom Horth from CNS Engineers. So they will send that out hopefully next week or the following week for some, comments, review. They should have plenty of time to get any information back before they have to submit to the state. Mike is working at the state level, on the date that it's due, because there is a conference at that time. So Mike is working on that as well. So he'll have an update for everybody, hopefully next week or the following week with more draft information on the projects that they're looking at putting into the grant.
Okay, any questions on that comment? Should we go to the resolutions then? Let's take resolution A, audit of final payment, Streeter Associates, Inc., passenger terminal expansion, phase 2. Jessica Tompkins International, I love that, International Airport.
I'll move that.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Dan. Discussion on this one. Ready to vote? All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Let's go to resolution B, and Roxanne, if there's something you want to say about these, please stop me.
Just jump in. 2 of them we have received the grants for. The aircraft rescue and firefighting snow removal equipment, that one we have received the grant for. And so it's waiting for approval from F&I and Full Ledge. We just didn't have the paperwork before the resolutions went in that it was official. And also the one for the design of taxiway A. So resolution B and C, we have received the grant documentation that Jackie can sign after the Full Ledge on the 8th. We're anticipating the resolution E, but we have not received the official paperwork on that, on those 3 that we applied for due to our capital project plan. So 2 of the 3 relating to capital projects, we have received the official notice that we are getting those.
And Koreman.
So the one that it's on the floor right now.
We're about to put it on the floor.
Oh, I thought someone did.
But you go ahead with your question.
I'm just wondering if we want to take out any reference to anticipated, and since.
Well, all right, let's put resolution B, acceptance of anticipated federal aviation. You want it to read acceptance of Federal Aviation Administration grant? Is that what you're asking?
Right.
We can move it that way. Grant, reconstruct aircraft rescue fighting snow removal equipment for the building design at the Tompkins International Airport. That's ID 10317. And so are you moving it, Ann?
Yes.
There's a second? By Dan? Okay. Any other questions on this one? Ann?
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I think you're probably gonna say the same.
Yeah, just thinking about all the places then we'd have to take out. See, then on line 5, whereas the county
Has
received. Go ahead, Dan, if you have
No,
language.
you're doing
Okay. Whereas the county has received a grant offer.
Well, could we leave it to staff to simply reword those, so they're not manifest, they're manifest errors?
Is that okay?
Changes at that point. Is that all right, Kathy?
Sure.
All right, thanks, Kathy.
Yeah, Kathy, I can work with you after this if you would like,
Okay,
if you want me to do that. I don't mind.
we'll work together on this.
All right, thanks, Kathy.
Thank you both. Dan, you had a question?
No, it's just the same thing. Thank you.
All right. Ready to vote on this one, guys? Well,
You need a motion first, Mike.
I thought we had it. I'm sorry.
Put it on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, that's on the
Well,
floor.
let's put it on.
Yeah, Ann and Dan,
For this one?
or this is B we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Same new date.
Ready to vote? All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Let's do C. We'll change it to Federal Aviation Administration Grant Acceptance Rehabilitate Taxiway Phase 4, Taxiway A, Phase 4, Taxiway F, and reconfigures taxiways E and D design at the Ithaca Tompkins International Airport. That's 10318. Someone move that one. Dave? Dan second. Any discussion about this? Let's vote. All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Let's go to D, resolution authorizing acceptance of a Federal Aviation Administration Grant, American Rescue Plan Act for operating costs, debt service, loss of revenue, and concessions, Ithaca Tompkins International Airport. That's 10319. Dave moved it and seconded it. Discussion on this one? Ann?
Thank you. So Roxanne, is this in addition to other funds, other ARPA funds?
So this is the third round of federal grants we've received. We had the CRISA, the CARES, and now this. And then I believe there's also another round that will be coming up and be announced maybe by the end of the fiscal year. I'm still waiting to hear back from the FAA on that. There'll be another, and I believe there will also be more funds relating to ARPA, but I'm not 100% positive on the title or what they're determining that as, or even the amount of what Ithaca could receive. There's been different amounts thrown around, but I don't have a definite amount. And I don't want to give a number and then have it be wrong. So.
Sure. Speaking of numbers, and you don't have to say if you don't have the exact number, do you have an estimate or approximate amount that of all those different funds that the airport has received so far?
So we've received, it's anywhere between 5 and 6 million, I believe, that we can draw down based on the 3 levels that we've received. And we've already used some of that for 2020. And just depending on, how things pick back up, it'll determine what we use the remaining funds for and how we use it and how we plug it into, the airport budget, how we plug it into debt service and move forward with that.
Okay, thank you.
Are we ready to vote on this one? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. And then we have E, resolution authorizing acceptance of anticipated, take out anticipated again, or this one is still anticipated?
This one, let me look at this one. Is this the construction one? This one might be the one that we are still.
Okay, then we should leave the language alone then.
Yeah, I'll double check on this one. I think we're still waiting on this one, but I'm.
All right. acceptance of anticipated Federal Aviation Administration grant for rehabilitation of taxiway A, phase 3. GA, General Aviation Apron Construction, Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, ID 10312. Someone moving that? And seconded by Dan. Any discussion on this one? Let's vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Yeah, and that last one, Mike, that one's the one where we aren't going to do an award of bid, if that's, which I believe it is, until we get the grant, because that'll determine which vendor will get the award. So we're holding off on that until we get the official grant notification and acceptance of that final amount, and that'll determine what vendor will award the bid to.
All right. Anything else you want to bring to our attention, Roxanne?
Not that I can think of. I think we're good for today. It's
Got some questions, Ann?
Just wondering how things are going at the airport as far as number of flights, passenger.
Sure. So we've been running fairly good load factors on all of our flights. We're still operating under the federal security directive that we're masked anywhere on airport property. Passengers have been responding very well to that. On providing free coffee until we can get the RFP out for a new food service company. That should be going out. We've been working with purchasing and finance on that. So that should be going out, but we're looking at, some of the complaints we've had is people just want a cup of coffee. So we've decided that's something simple that we can do. Provide our passengers. We've actually started serving coffee mornings on the secure side. So people taking the early morning flight can at least get a cup of coffee. Are increasing, still working with Delta to try to continue to increase flights with them, but things are moving forward and hopefully as things open back up again, fingers crossed with COVID, things will continue to improve.
Roxanne, you touched on my question. That was about the concessions at the airport, and you said the RFP is about ready to go out.
Correct. Yep.
Any idea if we get responses? Any idea when we could get open again under the RFP?
So I think the responses are due back in about 30 days. So what I'm hoping to be able to do is look at the next F&I agenda, get a on there, even though we may not know the company, get a resolution prepared. And then once we should have it prepared before the next F&I committee meeting so that we can, plug in who, we've selected from the proposals and then move it forward. So once it goes to F&I and full ledge, things can move forward. If we need to, if it looks like they've come in, they're great. And depending on the lineup of the meetings, I don't know the timing. I haven't looked at the dates yet for September, October. I'd like to really get the cafe open and running as soon as possible as well. It would help a lot of complaints that we've been receiving.
Yes, and we've heard a few of them, so we know that you must be hearing even more than we do. So
yeah, so fingers crossed, and I'll work with the committee on dates and Kathy as well to see, putting the resolution in without a name. I think we've done that before on other things. So
sounds like a good idea. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining us this morning, Roxanne.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Let's go to the Department of Recycling and Materials Management. I see Leo Riley's here.
Hello, Mike.
Hi, Leo. Is there anything you'd like to report to us?
I could just say that, the upgrade project that we've got going on at the facility is on schedule. Overall, we've had to move around some individual task items because of some things being on back order. So that's all going pretty well. I can tell you the last 2 months, June and July, we have seen an increase in recycling revenues from sale of materials. So we hope that trend continues. Other than that, everything's going pretty well.
Increases in like what percentage?
July spiked. I don't know the overall percentage, but I can tell you from July of 2020, the ACR, I believe, was around $35. And the price for the ACR in July of 2021 was $138. You know, that could be, you know, driven by some temporary reasons, I guess, depending on like what was sold from the recycling center, higher commodity items. So we're not expecting, you know, that kind of dollar amount in the future, but we are hoping that the increase continues.
That's encouraging. We have an information item, capital payment summary. Are there any questions on that? That's for the upgrades to the recycling center. Again, to Barton and LaJudas. For engineering services, obviously. Any questions? Guess not. Anything else for Leo? Any questions for him? Thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Don't have anything much from transportation. There will be a joint meeting of the ITCTC in September, both the policy and the planning committees. They didn't have a policy committee in August meeting. I would just point out that Cortland keeps moving closer to Dryden. When I say that, I mean the areas of commercial and residential activities, certainly in Cortlandville. And so we're seeing proposals in Cortlandville for now 184 units. Glenn, you probably read about this too. Including retail space and a daycare center. And that's in the area where Smith Corona used to be, where the J.M. Morey Center is in the Walmart area. If that goes ahead, the proposal there is for apartments that are, I guess, not high end, they'd be moderately priced apartments, if that's going to work. I can't believe but that people renting those apartments will be working in Ithaca and Tompkins County, a lot of them. Others may go to Syracuse, of course, but I think we'll get that. That means we're going to have even more commuting on Route 13. And our Route 13 study is important that we move that ahead, but I don't think we can rest on our laurels. We have to continue to advocate for intersection improvements and other improvements for that. Basically, lifeline highway that we have, and I don't see the number of commuters going down in the near future. So that's just my thoughts. Anything else anybody wants to mention on transportation? Let's go to minutes. July 15th. Dan, move. Is there a second? Dave moves. Seconds, rather. Discussion on July 15th. They're both July.
I was gonna just say,
Are we moving both of them, Dan?
Yes, I'd like to move both.
they both say July 15th.
You had two meetings on that day.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's what we do.
We had two meetings.
8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that one. Okay.
Ready to vote? All those in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous. Any reports that any of you would like to mention at this point? Are we ready to adjourn? All right, so we want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you, Lisa, Kathy. Thanks, Martha, for joining us. I guess we're done.